this computer. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody who's listening to this It's a Pace podcast. And actually, we're changing the formatting of this just a little bit. It's not It's a Pace. One of the things about the podcast is I want people I interview, I want people who are listening to this and myself to be true to myself, true to themselves, and listen to what's going on with It's a Pace podcast. And one of the things that I thought about It's a Pace podcast was I really wanted to call it Pace of Ownership. And so I'm going to transfer back to Pace of Ownership, because no matter what, if you want to get ahead in the world, you got to have some ownership of what you're doing. You don't have to, it's not about equity, it's about ownership of you and what you're doing. And one of the things that I thought about is on this podcast is, one is, why do a podcast? Two, what do I want to share with people? What can I hopefully share with people on this podcast? And I want to keep it high energy. And so the first person I thought about on an interview was the person who first ever interviewed me on a podcast. Because when he asked me to interview on a podcast, I was like, what's a podcast? And so I actually had to Google what the podcast is. And so David English is with us, and he's vice president of AdTrend. And he interviewed me 3 years and 1 day ago today, which is mind boggling. So basically, I sent him a document ahead of schedule. Correct, Dave? David, I sent you a document. So you understand what It's a Pace or Pace of Ownership is about. And so we're going to talk into and dive deep into what David's been doing, how his progression from his life in Lawrence, Kansas at KU progressed to where he is now, living in, I'm going to guess, Johnson County, Kansas.
I'm over in Lee Summit in the Lakewood
You're in
area.
Lee Summit, so you're in God's country then. So
I missed Kansas everything.
So you've got to be. Your neighbors have not got to like KU flags out on game day.
I have a funny story about that actually.
Go ahead, dive into it.
I'm born and raised Kansas kid, diehard Jayhawk fan.
Right.
Moved into my current house, and KU happened to be playing the day we were moving in. And like I do, I didn't think a whole lot of it. I put my KU flag on the flag post that is outside my front door.
Yep.
And just to good luck. I don't know, man, whatever you want to call it. You put it out there to cheer on your team. I mean, thankfully cable was hooked up so we could listen to the game while we moved in. And obviously, I mean, of course, the Jayhawks won like they usually do. And I went to bed with a house full of full boxes and knowing that I was packing tomorrow, and it wasn't a big deal. Next morning, I got up, poured myself a cup of coffee. I went out on my front patio to look at the lake and listen to the birds. And I looked around, and every single house, I'm not exaggerating one bit. Every single house had a Missouri flag sitting out front of their house, one way or another. And I've gotten to know the neighbors since then really well. And this was a conspiracy. The minute they saw that the new guy was a Missouri fan, they all decided that they needed to, set the new neighbor straight, I guess. But,
it's unfortunate not playing football the same, because I don't think either team is worth it in football. But those who are seeing this podcast on YouTube, you can see what's in his background, because he's got a Jayhawk basketball that's probably signed by somebody important.
Bill Self.
Okay, so the man himself. He's got some Royals gear, which is universal, but he's got that photo of Allen Fieldhouse right over his shoulder, and there it is. And that is truly the mecca of basketball. And if you haven't got a chance to go to Allen Fieldhouse, it's like going to Lambeau, it's like going to Fenway. It's Allen Fieldhouse. It's one of the sports arenas. I'll put Daytona up there as well. Daytona, because I'm a big NASCAR fan.
Yeah.
So I'm a big NASCAR fan. So I'll say Daytona. Actually, the way the Bristol race just happened at NASCAR, I actually want to go to the next Bristol nighttime race, because that was amazing. But anyway, so David, a little bit about yourself. We talked about the KU. You got the wife, you got the two boys, dogs, not cats, I assume.
2 dogs and 1 cat that won't leave.
Cats. Anyway, So where you at AdTrend, and what do you do there? What is AdTrend all about?
AdTrend is Kansas City's largest locally owned outdoor advertising company, with roughly 200 advertising structures. We operate boards on both the Kansas and the Missouri side. We have digital boards. We have your traditional static boards. For the most part, it's like 97 or 98% of your monopole structures. We're not operating the small posters that you see on the surface streets of town. We have the full-fledged 14 by 48 bulletins. We're definitely a bulletin plant. We're not as big as the corporate entities that we compete against every day. I don't know that we will be, and I don't know that we want to be. We have a niche, and we do the best with that niche that we can. It serves us well right now.
So you say you're local to Kansas City.
Yep.
So just for my sake on this, and I'm going to apologize because I believe on the website for AdTrend there is where all your billboards are. So where's the furthest away from Kansas City your billboard is?
Yeah. So the furthest north that we go would be St. Joe, Missouri.
Okay.
We have 2 boards in Leavenworth, which is an area I know you know well. And we go south as of right now, we go south into Edgerton.
Okay.
Edwardsville, and all the way as far south as Harrisonville on the Missouri side.
Okay. I got all east. How far east?
Yeah. We have 1 board in Topeka as well.
Okay.
But it's a large footprint. We're on most every major highway in Kansas City.
Yeah. How far east do you go? How far east of Kansas City do you go?
As of 2 weeks from now, we're building our first 2 new boards on I-70 in Blue Springs.
Okay.
So still in the metro.
Interesting.
We're really excited about these 2 new structures of ours, and they're going to be A+ locations. No, not yet. So with how the rules work in Blue Springs, going up digital right away wasn't possible. We have to convert to that over time. We would love digitals out there. It's a phenomenal market, an area we like a lot. So eventually, I hope that's what we do. But as of right now, we had to go static first.
Well, I've actually been stuck in traffic heading east on I-70 through Blue Springs. So I know the amount of traffic that is on I-70 heading east is absolutely incredible. Now, one of the things that I found interesting about the and I want to get the phrase right, outdoor advertising industry, right? So you're out of the home advertising, and it's a regulated industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you can put and I actually read an article where they were trying to destroy the industry.
Yeah. Every city's different, man. I mean, Kansas City, Missouri is different than Kansas City, Kansas. But I mean, even though that's passing state lines, I mean, Independence is different than Blue Springs. North Kansas City is different than Platte City. I mean, every city has the different codes, different ordinances, and a different feel on boards. And every city has the right to make their own rules and regulations regarding what we can put up, the size that we can put up, where they can go. And within that, you have to answer to the departments of transportation within each state. So in our case, MoDOT and KDOT, we have to answer to as well and meet those regulations also.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on.
Well, I would think there would be with regulations on drivers' distraction, because I drive 25 miles each way to come into the office. So I got a long drive. I see a lot of billboards, and I think one of the most, and you're probably familiar with this area. Some of them might be yours. I'm not sure, but it's right on I-35, right by Southwest Boulevard. As you're going across a bridge and up the hill, there's like 6 billboards right there. And I don't know if any of them yours.
No, they're not.
Okay. But it's like, okay, I can't possibly gather all that information in the stress of trying to take that corner to go under the bridge that all of a sudden you see
Yep.
downtown and you're right by Southwest
You
Boulevard
got
on the other
Kauffman
side.
Center down there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. So you got some, you said you have some digital boards out there
Yep.
and you got some static boards on there. And now one of the things that I found interesting in your background was you actually left AdTrend.
Yeah.
And there had to be some conflict going on. I always think a decision is because you're in conflict. I think
Yep.
there's a reason you got to do something. And if I'm going to throw you, I know a little bit about you, so I'm going to say that there was a discussion
Yep.
about digital at AdTrend before you left. There was, but you went back to AdTrend, so that had to be quite a decision to go back, and you had to make sure that you had a vision of what AdTrend could be, obviously. And so you had that discussion to say, this is what I think we can become. And how was it received? How was that decision?
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I was gone for about 18 months, maybe.
Wow.
Not 2 years. It was between,
Right.
I'd have to look, but yeah, I mean, I would say this to anyone who asks, I don't mind talking about it, but at the end of the day, I just got out of grad school. And
Go
I
Rockhurst.
Go Rockhurst. That's right. You were a few years ahead of me, I believe.
Yes.
But I had an idea. I wanted more digital boards. I wanted to grow at a faster pace. I was heavily involved with the sales. We were achieving numbers we had not achieved before from the Billboard standpoint, and finding profit where it wasn't found before. The company was doing very well, and I was pushing the company to continue that growth in the area of adding billboards. And my philosophy was, if we can find a city that will allow new billboard growth to happen, growing organically, if you will, we should pursue that and add these locations. And when we add them as digital billboards, and as is their right. And I don't nor did I at the time blame them for this. Ownership didn't agree, and he wanted to keep on the same course that they were on. And again, that's his right. It's his company. And I understood that, but I wasn't in agreement at all. And I told him that, and in not so many words, I expressed to him that I'm an aggressive person. I have a ton of energy, and I can definitely and am capable of growing this company. I don't have the willingness to sit. And I told him in not so many words. I mean, it was a very difficult conversation, but it was just a meeting of the seas, where a parting of the seas, where we weren't on the same page at all.
Well, I have to say that's a pretty gutsy discussion to have.
It wasn't fun. But it was a situation where I could see the potential growth, and maybe it wasn't seen from the other side of the desk. And it's difficult to tell a person with more experience than you and more tenure who grew the company from the ground up. I mean, one thing you learn in grad school, if you remember, we talked a lot about ownership of a private company. When you own that company, oftentimes it's your first baby. It is yours, and no one else understands the hours or the time put in to get that company off the ground. And I say this as respectful as I can to the guy that owns the place, but even someone like me, who I work my tail off and I do everything I can to make the company grow. I wasn't there in year 1 through 7, 1 to 10, when the company, I mean, it's different. It's different from an owner's perspective, and I respect that. So it was hard having that conversation, but I had to make my feelings known because I knew what I could do with it.
Well, that is very interesting, because it goes to that pace of ownership. In the heart of hearts, what you're saying makes perfect sense. And there are some owners who get in their own way. I know personal organizations where the owner got right in their own way and they could not grow as a result of that owner just saying that's not what we're going to do. And so hats off to having that conversation. I mean, that's a really tough conversation to have. And I've had business partners in the past where I've had to have that conversation. I mean, I was in the telecom industry. We were in the long distance telecom industry. And I could see that the dollar amounts that per call, it was just becoming a commodity. It was becoming non-existent. It was not even going to, no one was going to care about long distance. We had to move to a different vertical, and we could stay in communications, go cellulars, go network, go whatever the case may be. And I had partners who were, they didn't see it, and they're still in business, more power to them. I think they're doing a lot of staffing agency right now. They're not so much in talent, but they're doing the staffing stuff. So they did eventually pivot, because pivoting is critical. And actually the whole COVID thing, that was part of the catchphrase, is pivoting.
Oh, talk about pivots, God.
But how could you guys pivot? How could AdTrend pivot at all? Because you guys
during COVID?
Yeah. I mean, what could you pivot to?
Well, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, the billboards are there. I mean, they're not moving. And I can't go knock on people's doors and say, hey, get out of your house and go drive more, because I need to pay my bills. I mean, I can't.
Look at these crates. Look at these crates behind me. They collected dust for a year.
Yeah.
These crates are a brand new trade show booth they used in February of 2020, and they were supposed to use 2 more times since February 2020, and they couldn't. They've been collecting dust. You can't pivot that.
We couldn't. I mean, our pivot was strategic decisions that help create long-term, help secure us for the long term. We in February, March, and April, we started renewing contracts that expire in September, October, and November. We started reaching out to clients before we normally would, with not knowing what we were facing. I mean, we didn't know if this thing was going to blow over or if this thing was going to be around like it has been. So we started renewing people so early and at minimal increases, if any, and trying whatever we can to make sure that third and fourth quarter we're good. And we had to work with a handful of clients. We lost some, but the advantage of being a small company is we can make decisions in those pivoting situations quickly if we have to. So we decided over the course of an afternoon that we were going to do X, Y, and Z in order to sustain Q3 and Q4, because I mean, we didn't know what we were looking at, and it ended up making a lot of right decisions. Good. Looking ahead and not hoping it got better, because inevitably, I mean, obviously we're still dealing with it now. It didn't just get better. It will, but we had to prepare for the worst, and we got lucky that we were right.
Good. I find that interesting because here at Exhibit Associates, March 1st, well, I'll just say April 1st looked a lot different than March 1st. Those 31 days were such a transitional period. I mean, you didn't want to answer the phone because you knew it was cancel, 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 cancel. And it was just nothing we could do about it. It was outside of our reach. And in Exhibit Associates, we had some permanent displays, but we literally went from 20 people on staff down to 1.2 on salary. And that was, I mean, it was unbelievable. And we moved, and there's a lot of things we had to do, but there was no pivoting. Every time I hear a company that said they pivoted, I'm like, you guys count your blessings you're able to do that, because AdTrend or outdoor billboards or indoor trade shows, you're stuck. I mean,
well, it's so hard because I mean, pivoting isn't just, I don't know where you want the conversation to go or not.
Keep going. This is great.
Pivoting isn't just a couple managers sitting in a room saying, all right, well, this is the pivot, let's go. I mean, pivoting is getting, pivoting is getting everyone else on board. we can say it all day. We can say, yeah, okay, this is the pivot. Let's change everything we've told people, everything we've taught them. We're going to pivot over here and make a decision. I mean, that's not a pivot. Is bringing the staff on board, bringing the incredibly valuable employees in our shop area on board with how the pivot's going to work, about what we're going to do to help create profit where we can, and or different kinds of profit. And we can do that because we're small. Pivoting is very difficult to communicate if not done correctly.
I completely agree, and you can pivot yourself right off a cliff. And then when the pandemic happens, well, let's look at Exhibit Associates. And I don't know if this is happening at AdTrend. June 1st, our industry pretty much opened back up. We did a couple of trade shows in March and April and May, nothing major, but just one or two here and there, just enough. We're like, cool. And then June 1st, the gates opened. And then literally this September, we are having trouble just hanging on. Because people are getting out there, they need the face-to-face marketing. They need to do that marketing. And that's where this is where I want to go with what's going on with AdTrend. Is the worst behind us for AdTrend? Is the worst behind? Is things trending up? Are people excited about it? Did they miss it? Did your customers miss that channel to drive sales?
Absolutely. So your timing is going to mirror about almost exactly ours, because to take you back to when Kansas City, Missouri, and all the other suburbs in the area put in essentially a lockdown of don't get out of essential workers and a handful of others. You can leave, but everyone stay home. Just stay home. And regardless of what you thought about that, traffic counts dropped so significantly. I mean, it was a ghost town out there. And I look out my window and I see I-49 heading out of Kansas City, and what is now 100,000 cars a day driving past my window. I mean, it was probably closer to 10 or 20. I mean, so traffic patterns have shifted. The rush hour is not what it used to be, but traffic is spread out throughout the day. The numbers are the same.
Okay.
As long as, and because of that, clients are seeing the ability to reach their clients on different boards. Where they used to target rush hour traffic, they can now target traffic that is traveling throughout the day, which is a huge benefit. The other part of it is, I think all media is really valuable. Clients noticed that they lost billboards and outdoor advertising when they were driving. All media has their place, and I think clients realized, if outdoor is something they definitely do want or definitely do not. And now we have a lot of very committed, 100% on board, billboard loving clients, because they had it taken away. They didn't like it, and now they're back.
Interesting. I think our customers are mirroring that as well. They want to get back out there. They use face-to-face marketing as a channel. They would meet their customers, and I phrase it in a terminology that I borrowed from Sandler Sales. It's protect and plunder. You protect your customer base and you plunder your competitions, and that's all what trade shows are about. So it's protect and plunder. But okay, so now I'm going to move out of AdTrend and move into David English. I'm going to move into okay, so you go to KU, the center of the collegiate world. You come out, you go into corporate world. Why'd you go back to Rockhurst? Rockhurst, and David and I graduated from the same program. I'm a few years ahead of you, but it's a 2-year lockstep program, same 20, 25 people. I don't know how many people in your class. You go 8 hours a week, alternating Fridays and Saturdays was my schedule. And you did it pretty much for 2 years. And then you met as a team, and it's a busy program. I mean, of course, mine was much tougher because mine was older than yours. So, anything that happened before you was tougher. Anything after you was easier. Of course. Like the guys going through now have it easy. And so
during the winter, you guys had outdoor classes, right? In the
Yeah, we
snow?
did. We did. We
Yeah, I
had.
thought so. No, that's what I heard.
We did. It was
Okay.
tough, man, but somebody had to do it. And so, why'd you go to Rockhurst? That's not an easy program.
Yeah.
So to get through, because the amount of time it takes, and you got the wife, you got the kids. So why'd you go to Rockhurst?
Yeah. So number two on your list that you gave me of decisions, there's a lot of decisions that were made to make this happen. Fortunate at that point in time, we did not have kids.
Okay.
So, and my wife was still working at that point. So it wasn't taking a lot. I mean,
Right.
it wasn't taking anything away from kids. I mean, my
Okay.
wife and I talked it through, and she knew it would be a lot, but she also knew she was working a lot of Saturdays also, and the time restraints maybe weren't there as much as there were for other students, which was huge for us.
Yes.
Secondly, I'll be honest. I mean, I saw the direction that ad trend was headed, and the thought of keep things as they are and grow slowly. I could see that that's where the company wanted to be at for a while. And after some self-reflection and really honest conversations, I knew I wasn't equipped professionally at the time to take on a bigger role than where I was at that point. I'm a country boy. I'm from a small town. I'm probably at that point in my life not mature enough to maybe take on a bigger role, I would say, if I'm being very honest.
Wow.
I wanted more, but I knew in the back of my mind, I needed the skill set to do more.
Did Rockhurst give
And
you the skill set? Did they provide you the
absolutely,
tools?
yeah, Rockers was great. And I liked it so much because it took
And this is not
someone
an
like
ad
me.
for Rockhurst. This is not, I mean, I enjoyed the program. I really did. But for me personally, when I came out of there, I was like, let me go. I got the tool set now. And I actually left my company, but that's another
Yeah, my
story.
diploma is actually right over my shoulder here. But
Okay.
I liked it because it took someone like me, who's a small town kid in his 20s, no, early 30s.
Okay.
I was small town in early 30s, running sales for a small business at the time, and paired me up with friends of mine at Cerner, at some of the large organizations in town, some independent business owners, some people who were super happy in their careers, and people who were looking for a change. And of the 22 individuals in that class, all of us were really, really different. Some had Army or Air. It was Army background. Some, most did not. About I think 3 or 4 of them did though, which is great.
I was the only ex-military guy. I was the only one.
So. But I learned so much, and I listened so much to my classmates about how they run their businesses and how they or departments and how their experience is so different than mine. I really took advantage of picking their brains and learning as much as I could from them.
I found out
that's why I love the program.
When you were so you were at AdTrend when you went to get your graduate degree, and so I was at a small company where we were probably out 40 people, and I was an inch deep and like 6 miles wide in my capabilities.
Sure.
And some of the people we had were so siloed in their fields and experts at it. We had a tax expert who he could rewrite the tax code. I mean, this guy was just genius. We had accountants, we had logistics, we had, we had the big companies, like you said, and we had some business owners. And it was really, and they say you'll learn more from your classmates than you will from the professors. And I'm still very close. Matter of fact, one of them hired me afterwards. Matter of fact, two of them hired me afterwards, which I thought was really good because they were doing startups, and they didn't know how to do a startup. They didn't know what a tax identification number was. They didn't worry about property and casualty insurance. They didn't worry about all the administrative stuff. One guy sold wine. He was a real good wine salesman, which was good business to get in. and it was fun to do. But when I first got there, I was like, I am so in over my head. I just sat there and I was like, how did I get into this program? Why did they let me in? And I really learned a lot, and it changed. I was with a small company, and I was one of the founders of that small company. And like I said, we had 40 employees. Halfway through the program, the 2-year program, I went to my partners and said, I want out, because I didn't like the way they were running the company, and I couldn't make any movements. And so I left there, and so thankful I did. So I had the fortunate to run into Exhibit Associates, and now, man, it's a whole nother story about what's going on with the Exhibit Associates, and the shit show that it's been for a few minor things. That even our insurance agent is like, he goes, I don't even know why I'm carrying you anymore. So, all the bad stuff happens to you because, the pandemic. We had someone embezzle over $100,000 from us. We had somebody on somebody who had some personal issues, got addicted to drugs, and impacted. And she was in a key position, and she got help. Yeah, so it really hurt, but she got help, and we love her, and she's actually come back to consult for us. So, there's redemption and everything. So, so Rockhurst was key for me. I'm glad to hear that you did the self-reflection up front and had honest conversations. But man, the time suck it was unbelievable. All right, so I'm going to go down. Okay, ad trend. It's trending upward. Are you hiring? Are you looking for people?
Yeah.
And so what's your ideal candidate?
I want to hire in two very different positions. There's going to be a sales position available before too long. Right. I'd like to bring in, if I had it my way, someone who is young and hungry and you willing to just go 100 miles an hour. I need some help. I want to work really directly with them. So someone who's coachable. I would.
All right, now who's the other guy? I'm gonna push you on here. Who's the other? What's the other skill set?
We're going to be hiring like madmen in our install department, climbing boards, hanging billboard vinyls, everything like that.
So now, what's the culture like at AdTrend?
We try to be close with everyone. I think we're a small company. I think you are doing yourself a disservice if you don't make an effort of being close to those that are in that other small company with you. We like to get to know each other. We're not out having beers on a Friday together, but I want to know about your family. I want to know about what you're doing on the weekends. If you like fishing, or if you like the Chiefs, or KU, or whatever it may be, I want to know.
No MU fans apply.
No, we're not going to hire. I don't. Absolutely.
So what's it? Have you made a wrong hire in the past?
Yeah,
culture, not skill set, but culture, because I think culture is more important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and it just kills the company. I mean, the momentum stops dead in its tracks when you do, because a buddy of mine buddy of mine who's working for a Fortune 500 company explained it to me, because I was complaining about hiring to him one day.
Yep.
And he goes, Dave, look at this. There are, about 15,000 people who work for the company he was at the time, right? Huge organization.
Yep.
He said, if 20% of our staff just decided not to work, 20% of them were just bad fits, were just awful, there are so many more people to absorb that lack of action or lack of productivity. If 20% of the people in your company just don't show up and don't go, it's going to kill you every day, because there's just not enough manpower there to really take on everything. I personally can't take on, 20% more if someone is a bad fit. So when we make bad hiring decisions, it's just, I try very hard to be very, very good at it.
Yep. And we're hiring right now, and I told the guy, basically, you got to fit in or else.
Yeah. You have to. I don't need to be your best friend, but I definitely want to get along with you. I want to care about your interests. I want you to care about mine. I want to, everyone, we come here to work. It's come here, let's work hard. Let's, and let's genuinely care about each other. And,
one of the
I
things we
found a
tell
guy.
our guys, we tell our guys is, hey, that fourth grade play that your kid is
Yeah,
in is never going to come by again. You better go to it.
go,
Go.
go,
Do not
absolutely
stay here,
go.
because this shit will be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
And go to that fourth grade play, go to that dance recital, whatever is happening, go. Now, you don't need to be at every soccer practice. That's not, but
Well,
there are
soccer's
limits.
it's so hard to watch though.
Oh my gosh. Are your kids in
But
soccer?
my 4-year-old is.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And they needed a coach, so I volunteered, not realizing what I was getting myself into. But
Because I live over by the soccer fields in Overland Park.
right,
And
yeah.
they're going 24/7, I swear. And
Oh, it's unreal.
I see parents out there, and I'm like at 7 a.m. and 11 at night, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad my kids didn't get into that. They
Oh,
gotta.
it's so overwhelming. You
It
show up, there's
is.
10,000 parents there, and I, um, the
Yes.
Cooper, our oldest son, his first soccer game was a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And my parents happened to be in town, and they won't mind me telling this story. They'll probably listen to this episode and laugh, but we didn't realize what we were getting ourselves into. We had no idea. And we show up, and we first off, we lose them getting into the parking lot area. So we're parked on two different spots in the parking lot, and we can't find them. And our field is the very far end away from where we parked. It was the most overwhelming experience. And I think they got there and they stayed for a little. They had to get back to Wichita, but they were overwhelmed. We were overwhelmed. It's a lot.
So you didn't bring the tents. You didn't bring the 6 chairs. You didn't bring the 2 coolers. You didn't bring the whole. We're gonna camp here for a day setup.
No, but I friends of mine do. It is there.
Hey, I've been with through other events. My daughters, they're both grown, and they I did it for their events, and it's just wait till you got to drive them around. You and your wife will not see each other when your kids are like 12. You will not see each other until Sunday, and you'll be like, "Who are you again?" And so
sure.
it gets really big. Okay, so now
back on track.
And fitness, health, I think is very important. So how do you take care of yourself, David? I mean, you got the 2 dogs. Sorry about the cat. Your wife, you got the 2 kids. 4-year-old. He's your oldest or younger? Your
4-year-old's the oldest. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Cooper, and then
2-year-old.
Bennett is your younger one. Okay.
These
So
2.
how do you what do you do for David? What does David do to stay sharp?
Yeah. So between all of that and kids and family, staying sharp and in shape is hard because you have to carve out that time.
Yes. So I'm hearing nothing right now.
Be intentional. No, not at all. That's not the case. I during the summers I play a lot of golf, and that's my way to keep myself in shape. But obviously you're getting up early. You're carving out time for the gym. You're taking the dogs on a walk when it's a not a perfect day.
Yes.
It's finding some time to get away, and it's not a workout like it was when I was in my 20s. It's not a workout like it was, but I'm also eating better. I'm also putting better food into my system. I'm more careful about my intake so that I can be more selective about when I do exercise and when I do work out. I'm carving out time on the weekend for the gym or the golf course. I think, but back up to what you said though, you're right. It is so incredibly important to stay in shape. And I think it helps create an open mind. It allows you to really see the world differently than maybe you would when you're going 100 miles an hour.
Yes.
And it allows, and that's when I find I make some of the biggest decisions or best decisions is the clarity of a workout, of when you can say, this is where I want to go, and you can walk yourself through a decision and not be distracted.
One of the things that I found is, and I'm very fortunate. I work with my wife, so I'm very fortunate in that we're able to do that, because a lot of husband and wives I run into, A joke is, Amy came up to me and said, "Hey, do any of your friends?" No, I went up to her and I said, "Do any of your friends ask you how you're working with your husband? How can you do that?" And she goes, "No, why? Do yours?" And I say, "Every single one of them asked me, how could you work with your wife? I could never do that." And so I'm very fortunate I get to work with her, but it's hard because we can't shut off, we can't shut down.
Yeah,
And
I
so
can see that.
we actually have to find time to like not, and the best time is when we have dinner with our daughters and they're both out of the house. But if we have dinner with one of our daughters or both of them, phones aren't allowed and no talking about work.
Yep.
And so it works out really good because, and also my wife says, I'm good at making the hard decisions in the morning, and the later in the evening, I got to do the fluff. I can't do, I can't, because work gets tough. I mean, it's not
Right.
easy, but if I can, I take care of the heavy lifting in the morning and the lighter stuff in the afternoon. Because, we're not getting younger, we got to stay fit, we got to stay healthy. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up here.
Sure.
Just one more question for you, David, and I appreciate your time. Again, it's a Pace of Ownership podcast, and you definitely have ownership mentality where it comes to AdTrend. So
Thank you.
where is AdTrend in 10 years? Where's David English in 10 years?
Yeah. So in 10 years, I mean, based on conversations we've had here, conversations that I think are ongoing, I'm going to be a bigger part from an equity standpoint of what we have going on here. And it's an agreement we set in place when I came back of what that future would look like. Obviously you've got, a lot in play as far as building new structures and growing the plant. We really want to find another market to emerge into, and to grow into. If that's, it's Omaha or St. Louis or
Okay, so
even
it's another geographic market, not
it would
another,
need to be.
not a state, not like a building signage stuff, or just, it
No,
would be.
it would be a geographical
Okay.
location. I mean, both of the cities I named would be horribly difficult to get into, but we would want to find another location there. AdTrend would, and there's a lot of organic growth. We can convert a lot of our boards that are static into digital. We, as ordinances change within cities, there are ways to expand your plant with the inventory you had by turning them into digital boards. So we can do that.
Okay. So equity, so not just ownership mentality, but real ownership into AdTrend. That would be ideal. I got to ask one more question. Okay. I'm going to make an assumption. I don't know this. You run the social media for AdTrend. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was true. And if you, and I got to recommend it if you go out there. It is, you can see where AdTrend's boards are, especially when you put a new board up. I think I saw one, I want to say in Archie, Missouri. You're down on 49 somewhere, I think.
It's
South.
yeah. I know what you're
Pattersonville?
talking about. It's north of there. No,
Okay.
it's on 49, just north of there. Yeah.
Yeah, because I see it. I'm like, oh, and I don't know how many times since you put that up there that I've had to go to Nevada. So I've been driving and I'm like, okay, there's a billboard, and I'm like, oh shit, and it's like, I would have now noticed if it wasn't on your social media channel, but and I do the social media for Exhibit Associates. But this podcast, Pace of Ownership, Mr. English, I appreciate your time. I really, really do. And hopefully your 10-year plan works out. And I hope you stay listening to this, or at least snippets of it, because there's a lot to a podcast and we're still all so busy. But thank you for playing along for this Pace of Ownership podcast. And with that, I'll end it here.